living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
Half of all Americans take some sort of vitamin or supplement. In fact, last year, almost $50 billion was spent on vitamins and supplements. But how much do we really know about what we need to be healthy? Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Colleen Roylance, and today we'll take a look at vitamins and supplements and see what we really need to be healthy. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Joining us today is Jennifer Colgrove. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist from St. Peter's Hospital. Jennifer, thanks so much for being here with us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk about vitamins and minerals and supplements, and maybe we can start with some definitions. What is the difference between all of those?
Okay, yes, good question. So vitamins and minerals are micronutrients that we get from our food sources. So there's macronutrients, which are fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and then our micronutrients are our vitamins and minerals. So everything from vitamin A all the way down to zinc. And those, like I said, are all found naturally in our foods, and that's where we should be getting our nutrition or those nutrients from. And then supplements are more manufactured vitamins and minerals. So they just are meant to supplement what we already get from our food sources.
Okay,
Yeah.
So what are some of the most important vitamins, minerals, supplements, and can you talk about what each one does? What should I be paying attention to?
Yes, absolutely. So, our body needs 44 different vitamins and minerals every day. And so that's a lot. And so it's really hard to pinpoint. They're all important. And so they all basically are part of our function in our pathways for our body's systems to work. And so we can't really live without any of them. I mean, we can go sometimes days, sometimes weeks without some of those nutrients, but in general, we can't live a lifetime without any of them. So I would say they're all important. And so that's kind of the big, broad answer. But you know, the ones that get probably more attention are things like vitamin D, things that we don't get enough of on a general long-term basis. So those nutrients are important. I mean, sodium and potassium are electrolytes that our heart needs to pump. So those are going to be very important as well. But we get enough of those in our general foods so that they seem to be downplayed a lot of times. Yeah, so that's kind of a hard one to answer just because they are all very important and they all have different functions. So like our B vitamins, niacin, thiamine, riboflavin, some of those nutrients all are part of energy metabolism. So it's hard for our body to break down foods into the energy we need without those particular nutrients. There's our vitamins that provide antioxidants. So those are things that I think we'll talk about too, that boost our immune system and fight disease. And so there's a whole plethora of functions that they all provide, and they all intermix together.
Okay, so 44 is a big number.
It is a big number.
And you mentioned vitamin D, and I happen to know that vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin.
It is, yes.
So what is the difference between a fat-soluble and a water-soluble vitamin?
Yeah, so what fat-soluble vitamins mean is that you need to have fat in your diet in order for them to absorb. So they won't absorb without fat. The water-soluble vitamins will absorb at random. And then if you're getting excess amount of the vitamins, the water-soluble vitamins, you'll just get rid of any excess through your urine. And so fat-soluble vitamins, though, may stay in your body. And so there's just a caution for people, especially taking any kind of supplement, not to take very high doses of certain fat-soluble vitamins, and especially checking with your physician if you do need some, like vitamin D, because sometimes people do need to take high vitamin D doses for their bones. Yeah.
So if I take too much of a fat-soluble vitamin, what's the danger, and does the danger change depending on that vitamin?
Yes. So you probably won't feel well if you're actually having a vitamin toxicity. So a lot of times people will get nauseous, excess fatigue, some different things like that. So it's a good thing to be aware of if you all of a sudden aren't feeling well, to correlate that to if you're taking a lot of extra vitamins. But very rarely are they life-threatening. And you would have to take large doses for an extended period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of supplements you can get over the counter, right? They're just on the shelf at the grocery store.
Yep.
Are supplements ever prescribed?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the supplement that needs a prescription that people would be most common is the vitamin D. Typically, so the international units that were recommended today are 600. Your typical vitamin D supplement in the store is going to have 1,000 to 2,000 international units, and sometimes people are prescribed 50,000 units per week, and so that often is a prescription dose. And they don't take it very long. They take it maybe for 8 to 10 weeks till their vitamin D level rises, and then they're put back on a maintenance dose of something that they can just take over the counter.
Okay. So when you mentioned the 44 that we need, is there a difference getting it from a supplement versus getting it from food?
Absolutely, 100%. And so, of course, I'm a dietitian, so I'm always about get your nutrition from your food. That's kind of the natural way of doing things. And so, but how I look at it is it's just a whole package. So for example, if you eat an orange, you get all this great vitamin C from that orange, but you also get those antioxidants, those phytochemicals, and so all these other components of that food that provide our body with a lot of things that boost our immune system and boost our cancer fighting, antioxidant kind of products. And so we get more from that food than just the one single nutrient. And when you take a supplement, you're literally just getting that one single nutrient.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really helpful. We need to stop for a quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about supplements and vitamins and how to get the best for your health. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. We're still talking with Jennifer Colgrove from St. Peter's Hospital about dietary supplements and vitamins. Let's talk a little bit about fiber. I know that you can get fiber supplements, and I know that you should get a lot of fiber from your food. So what role does fiber play, and is it best supplements or best food?
Oh, 100% best food, for sure. You want to get fiber from food, and it's kind of like the same concept of taking a supplement for vitamin C versus eating a whole orange. If you get your fiber from food, from your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, beans, nuts, there's a lot of foods you can get fiber from. You're not just getting fiber, but you're also getting the protein or the vitamin C or whatever other nutrients and vitamins and minerals to meet that 44 that we need every day when you eat it from the whole food. So fiber plays a big role in a lot of our health issues. One is it helps slow down absorption of sugars and breakdown of sugars. So when you eat a whole grain or foods that have high fiber in it, it slows down that absorption of sugar in our system so we don't have those sugar spikes and insulin trying to chase that. It also is great for our GI health. I always say it's kind of the exercise on the inside when we eat a lot of fiber and keeping our gut healthy. And then it also plays a big role in keeping our cholesterol down, because cholesterol actually, or fiber actually binds our cholesterol and takes it out as waste instead of that cholesterol absorbing into our bloodstream and circulating through our system. So it plays many roles in helping keep us healthy.
Bit of a powerhouse.
It's a powerhouse, yes.
So is there any time that you would need to take a fiber supplement, and are there different types?
Yes, there are. There are different types of fiber supplements, fiber sources. So there's cellulose, and there's some different types of fibers in the supplements available. And Very rarely would people need fiber supplements unless they're truly unable for some other reason, via swallowing wise, or their ability to chew fruits or vegetables or things like that, and they're on more of a liquid type diet, that fiber would be beneficial for them to take fiber supplements. Sometimes older people aren't able to just eat enough food in general, so sometimes they will take a fiber supplement to keep their GI tract moving regularly, and so sometimes that can be beneficial too. But always try to get more from your food if possible, eating those whole foods.
That makes good sense. And earlier you talked about antioxidants. Again, what do they do? And should we get them can we get enough from food, or do we need some sort of supplement there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can get plenty of antioxidants from food. Again, a lot of our fresh fruits and vegetables, especially the berries and a lot of our greens. And antioxidant and what they do in our food is we have a lot of free radicals that circulate throughout our body, and that's sometimes where cancer growth can start. And so that happens on a daily basis. So it's pretty miraculous when we get these antioxidants. So when those cells are oxidized to create those free radicals, the antioxidants go and they kind of take care of those so that they don't cause havoc in our body. And so those antioxidants are in our body fighting all the time. So eating lots of fruits and vegetables are a big source of our antioxidants. Teas, things like that are very helpful in keeping us healthy that way. Way better sources too than what we can get from supplements.
Okay, so I've often wondered, a free radical. I mean, really, what is that? Just this radical cell that's running around,
kind of a rogue
wreaking
cell.
havoc?
Yes, it's kind of a rogue cell. So, and those can be caused from all kinds of environmental issues too, which is kind of out of my wheelhouse. But when our cells, again, when they oxidize, sometimes they can create those free radicals in our system. So our body is constantly with our immune cells, our T cells, and our antioxidants that we eat are always in there just fighting for us to keep things running smoothly. It's quite miraculous,
It's
actually.
really fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Omega-3, that's another one you hear a lot about, and I think that you get that from fatty fish.
Yes.
Is there another way to get it if people don't like fish?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple other good sources of those omega-3s are walnuts and flaxseed. They also are good sources of omega-3 fats. And so if you want kind of more of plant-based, and that's something that you can eat almost on a daily basis, whether you're sprinkling walnuts on a salad or in your cereal or just eating a handful or on your yogurt parfaits, there's a lot of ways you can throw in walnuts to your diet or sprinkle flaxseed on your food as well. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What about salt? Salt has iodine, right?
Yes.
Table salt does.
Table salt does.
So is there a difference between table salt and sea salt or kosher salt? And what are you getting from each one of them?
Yeah, so basically they're all the same sodium content. So sometimes when people are told to eat a lower sodium diet, they think by eating sea salt they're getting a lower sodium diet, which is not the case. They're the same. But sea salt does not have iodine in it, and so they fortify our regular table salt with that, so we don't get that mineral deficiency. And again, usually you're going to get enough in your food supply either way. There's also a slight amount of trace minerals in a sea salt, but it's not enough to be a benefit to your health.
Okay. Let's see, another one I hear about is probiotics versus prebiotics.
Yes.
What is the difference and when do I need each?
Okay, so probiotics are bacteria that feed your gut bacteria, which is a good thing. It kind of sounds gross, but it's really actually a great thing. We want lots of bacteria in our GI tract to break down our foods in a healthy way. So probiotics such as fermented food like sauerkraut and kimchi and kombucha tea and some of those kind of things are great. Yogurt, those bacteria that are in yogurt actually provide our probiotics. So those are the bacteria that we can consume. Prebiotics are the foods that we eat that feed the probiotics. So prebiotics come from, again, those high fiber whole foods such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and those kind of things. So again, another benefit of those fibrous foods as prebiotics to feed our probiotics to keep that GI tract healthy.
They really do all rely on each other, don't they?
They sure do, yeah.
This has been really helpful. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about supplements and talk a little bit about herbal supplements. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining us now is Angela Woodmansey, and she is a clinical pharmacist with Mountain Pacific Quality Health. Angela, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. So we've been talking about vitamins and minerals and supplements, and what I'd like to talk with you about is natural supplements or herbal supplements. And one that I hear a lot about is melatonin, which is touted as a sleep aid, but then I've also heard it's good for symptom treatment of cancer and maybe even COVID. So what kind of science do we have that backs up these claims?
Oh, good question. Well, melatonin is a hormone that's naturally released in our brain, and it's believed to help regulate our circadian rhythm, our natural sleep-wake cycle. But it could possibly have some other effects that we just don't fully understand yet. If you buy a melatonin supplement, it's actually a synthetic version that's made in a lab, and it's designed to mimic our natural hormone. There is a good level of evidence to support using melatonin for chronic insomnia. They've shown that if you take it, it can increase or decrease the amount of time it takes to fall asleep by about 8 minutes and increase your total sleep time by about 10 minutes. So it's not a dramatic effect, but it can be helpful for some people. The best advice I have in regards to melatonin is to take it at the same time every day, about 30 to 60 minutes before you're going to fall asleep. And the reason you want to be consistent is to try to help reset your clock, to help you start feeling tired at the same time every day. If you take it as needed, they show that it's just not as effective. If you really want to know if it's working, take it for a good 30 days, same time every day. And if you don't see a response at the end of those 30 days, it's probably not going to work for you. In regards to those other indications, such as for cancer symptoms, the data just is not as adequate. They've looked at using it for decreasing tumor progression, and they've looked at it for increasing appetite in cancer patients. And what they've found, the data is just really inconclusive at this point. So I would not recommend it for that use at this time. And then as for COVID-19, that's a tricky one because COVID is a newer disease. So it's theorized that maybe melatonin has some antioxidant or anti-inflammatory properties that might be beneficial with COVID, but I have yet to see a study completed yet looking to see if it is effective. And so at this point in time, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say it's just too early to tell.
That's really helpful. Another one that I've heard about is St. John's wort, and it is used for depression, but then also touted to be used for obsessive compulsive disorder and maybe even muscle pain. What can you tell us about that, and is the evidence there?
Got it. Well, St. John's wort is a plant that has yellow flowers, and it's been used as an herbal supplement for centuries for various different reasons. The level of evidence, though, for other uses other than depression are not that significant. So for obsessive compulsive disorder or muscle pain, I would say there's just not enough studies done yet to really say that it's useful for that. But for use in depression, there is some evidence to suggest it may be helpful for mild to moderate depression, not for severe depression. And even though there is some evidence, though, the American Psychiatric Association does not currently recommend using St. John's wort for depression. It's not part of their guidelines at this point in time. But they do say that if you have a patient who's really adamantly opposed to using a prescription antidepressant, it may be a viable option. But you would want to have that patient work with a provider on using St. John's wort, as depression is a really serious condition, and you just don't want to self-treat. You'd want to make sure you're properly evaluated.
So if it's not recommended, does that mean there are risks or concerns with using St. John's wort?
Well, yes, it still can be used for mild to moderate depression, but if you're going to use it for that, you would definitely want to know that St. John's wort is notorious for having a lot of drug interactions. It can interact with a lot of different prescription medications, including blood thinners such as warfarin or digoxin, which is used for your heart. It can interact with birth control pills, making them less effective. There are a number of drug interactions it can have. The list is very long. And so if one is to use St. John's wort, I would recommend that you go up to your pharmacy counter and ask your pharmacist to do a drug interaction screen to check to see if there might be an interaction, because some of those interactions can be really life-threatening. There also can be some mild side effects. A common one is increased sensitivity to sunlight, so a greater likelihood to burn. So you want to wear sunscreen, can cause some nausea, dizziness, drowsiness, etc. So yeah, you'd want to look out for those symptoms if you started it.
That's really helpful. What if we change our direction? We talk a little bit about some of the things we all have in our pantry. Cinnamon, garlic, ginger, maybe a little echinacea. What can they do for us, and do they work?
Sure. Well, for cinnamon, of course, it's a great spice we all have, but it has been studied in larger doses, like actually in a capsule form, for various conditions. One of them being type 2 diabetes. They've looked to see if it can lower glucose levels. It's also been looked at for inflammation and for allergies. But right now, the data is just too inconclusive to recommend it. It's not part of any guidelines to use, like for instance, for diabetes at this point in time. So I'd say just probably enjoy it as a good tasting spice at this point. And then as far as garlic, it's interesting, but there were originally some few studies that came out suggesting that when used in high doses as a supplement, it might have some benefit with lowering cholesterol. But they ended up doing a much larger, more controlled study. And when they did that, they found that there was not a statistically significant difference when using garlic in lowering cholesterol. So it's no longer part of any sort of guidelines. And then as far as echinacea, that there is some level of evidence that it might be helpful in preventing colds, but not for treating colds. So if you're in a household and someone has a cold and you have it around, you might want to take it and see if it might prevent you from getting sick. Again, just small level of evidence there. And then lastly, for ginger, there is some evidence that it can be helpful for slight nausea. But if you are a pregnant woman considering using it for morning sickness, I would just consult with your OBGYN provider first before using it, as the provider might have some better guidance on what you should be using.
Thank you so much. Angela, thank you so much for all the great information, and thank you for joining us today. And
absolutely.
I'd also like to thank Jennifer for joining us earlier in this show. We're going to end it there, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.